You noticed the shift before they ever said a word. The good morning texts stopped first. Then the long paragraphs turned into one-word replies. Then even the emojis disappeared, and you told yourself they're just busy. But deep down, you felt it. You started checking their last scene. You reread old messages from weeks ago, back when they couldn't stop talking to you, back when they were the one chasing. You remember that night, don't you, when they said, "I've never felt this comfortable with someone." Man, that felt real. Now you're sitting there wondering how something that felt so intense could become so distant. Just imagine this. You're holding your phone, waiting for a reply. You see they're online, they post a story, but they don't respond to you. That tiny moment, it hits your chest like rejection, and suddenly your mind turns against you. Was I too available? Did I text too much? Was I not exciting enough? You start shrinking yourself in your own head. You promise to text less, act cooler, care less. But here's the crazy part. The more you try not to care, the more you care. Come on, you know exactly what that feels like. You replay conversations like a detective investigating your own heart. You analyze tone, timing, punctuation. You become hyper-aware of everything. And the worst part? They didn't argue. They didn't explain. They just faded, like a song that slowly lowers in volume until you're sitting in silence wondering when it ended. Visual suggestion. Rain against a window, soft, ambient lighting. This is the moment most people make a mistake. They chase, they try harder, they give more, they become more available, because losing someone's interest doesn't just hurt your feelings, it threatens your identity. It whispers, "You weren't enough." But what if I told you something uncomfortable? What if I told you they didn't lose interest because you were lacking? They lost interest because of how human psychology works. And what if the thing you're blaming yourself for was actually a completely predictable biological response? Stay with me, because by the end of this video, you're going to see that moment, that painful, silent shift, very differently. And you might even realize you were never the problem. Now, let's slow this down, because the real pain doesn't start when they pull away. It starts inside you. At first, it's subtle. You notice they reply a little later than usual. You feel a tiny drop in your stomach, but you brush it off. They're just busy. Then it happens again, and again. And now your body knows before your mind does. Something has shifted. Imagine this. You send a message. You see delivered. Minutes pass. Then hours. Your brain starts building stories. Maybe they're bored. Maybe they met someone else. Maybe you said something wrong 3 days ago and didn't realize it. And here's the scary part. Your brain sounds convincing. It presents theories like facts. You start reviewing your behavior. Did I come on too strong? Was I too available? Should I have acted less interested? You begin adjusting yourself in real time. You wait longer before replying. You pretend to be busier than you are. You carefully craft texts so you don't seem too much. It's exhausting, because now you're not being natural. You're performing. And the more you perform, the more anxious you feel. Your chest tightens when your phone lights up. Your mood depends on their response speed. You start checking their social media to see if they're active. And when you see they're online but not replying, that's when the spiral really begins. Come on. That feeling is brutal. Your nervous system doesn't understand maybe. It understands threat. Rejection activates the same brain regions as physical pain, not metaphorically, literally. That's why it hurts so much. Your system goes into alert mode. And here's what most people don't realize. When someone pulls back, your instinct is to move closer. It's automatic. You send a "just checking in" message. You try to revive the energy. You offer more attention, because somewhere inside, your brain believes, if I increase my value, they'll come back. But that effort often creates pressure, and pressure kills curiosity. Now let's talk about the internal conflict. Part of you wants to play it cool. Another part of you wants reassurance, so you battle yourself. Don't text them. Okay, just one message. No, wait, that looks desperate. It's like negotiating with your own emotions. And the worst part? You start questioning your worth. You compare yourself to people they follow. You analyze what they like. You wonder if you're interesting enough. That's when it stops being about them. It becomes about your identity. You feel chosen at the beginning. Now you feel replaceable. And that shift is devastating. But here's something important. The early stage of connection feels intense because it's uncertain. Uncertainty creates energy. When both people are leaning in equally, it feels electric. But the moment one person pulls back, the balance changes. And humans are extremely sensitive to imbalance. If someone invests less, the other often invests more. It's like a seesaw. When one side goes up, the other drops. You try to restore balance by giving more. But sometimes giving more only confirms that the dynamic has changed. And that's the painful truth. You're not responding to who they are. You're responding to who they were at the beginning. The version who texted first. The version who made plans. The version who seemed certain. You're chasing the memory, not the present reality. And that's why it feels so confusing. Because you know what it was like when it was good. So you keep trying to get back there. But attraction doesn't work like a switch you can flip back on. It responds to emotional energy. And when your energy becomes anxious, it changes the tone. Now here's the deeper layer. Sometimes when someone pulls away, it activates old wounds. Maybe from childhood. Maybe from past relationships. Moments where attention was inconsistent. Moments where love felt conditional. So the current situation doesn't just feel like dating stress. It feels like history repeating itself. And your body reacts accordingly. You don't just want them. You want stability. You want certainty. You want to feel safe again. That's why the urge to chase feels overwhelming. It's not about ego. It's about security. But here's the uncomfortable insight. When you start centering your emotional state around someone else's level of interest, you slowly hand them control. Your mood rises and falls based on their attention. Your confidence becomes conditional, and attraction cannot survive where self-abandonment begins. That's hard to hear, but it's freeing too. Because once you recognize the pattern, you stop personalizing every shift. You begin to see it as a dynamic, not a verdict on your worth. And that realization, that's where power starts returning to you, not by pretending you don't care, but by understanding why you care so deeply. And once you understand that, everything changes. Let's go deeper, because if we don't understand the mechanism, we'll keep repeating the pattern. I've often wondered why attraction feels strongest when it's uncertain, and weakest when it feels secure. Why does someone seem obsessed in the beginning, and then calm, distant, or bored later? A big part of it comes down to dopamine. Now, most people think dopamine is the pleasure chemical. It's not. It's the anticipation chemical. Dopamine spikes when something is unpredictable, when the reward is possible, but not guaranteed. In early dating, everything is uncertain. Will they text? Do they like me as much as I like them? Is this going somewhere? That uncertainty lights up the brain. It creates excitement, energy, focus. But once things become predictable, the dopamine spike lowers, the nervous system stabilizes, and for some people, that calm feels like something is missing. It's not that you became less interesting, it's that the chase ended. Now here's where it gets psychologically fascinating. There's a concept called cognitive dissonance. It's the discomfort we feel when our actions and beliefs don't align. If someone invested heavily at the beginning, texting constantly, planning dates, expressing strong feelings, their brain built a story. I really like this person. But once the intensity fades, the brain has to reconcile the change. Instead of thinking, maybe my excitement was just novelty, it sometimes concludes, maybe they're not as special as I thought. Not because you changed, but because their internal chemistry did. The brain hates inconsistency, so it rewrites the narrative to feel coherent. That's not cruelty. It's cognitive efficiency. Now let's add an evolutionary lens. Thousands of years ago, novelty meant opportunity, new land, new resources, new alliances. Humans who explored survived. Our brains are still wired to respond strongly to new. So when a relationship shifts from discovery to familiarity, the primitive part of the brain relaxes. For emotionally mature people, that relaxation becomes intimacy. For emotionally avoidant people, that relaxation feels like boredom. And this is where the twist happens. Sometimes they didn't lose interest in you, they lost interest in stimulation. There's a difference. Some individuals are unconsciously addicted to the intensity phase, the butterflies, the unpredictability, the chase. When that phase naturally transitions into steadiness, they misinterpret stability as a loss of chemistry. But here's the part that might shift your perspective entirely. When someone pulls away, your body activates the HPA axis, your stress response system. It prepares you to fight for connection. Your heart rate changes, your thoughts become intrusive, your focus narrows. Rejection to the brain feels like a survival threat, so you pursue, not because you're weak, but because you're wired to preserve bonds. And here's where neuroplasticity becomes powerful. Neuroplasticity simply means your brain can change its patterns. Your response to distance is learned. It's not destiny. If you grew up with inconsistent attention, your system may equate unpredictability with love. So when someone pulls away, it doesn't just feel uncomfortable. It feels familiar. And familiarity can be addictive. But once you understand this, you stop asking, why wasn't I enough? And you start asking, was this dynamic built on intensity or compatibility? That's a completely different question. One is rooted in insecurity, the other is rooted in evolution. And when you shift from self-blame to pattern recognition, you regain your power. Because the truth is simple, even if it's uncomfortable, attraction that depends on uncertainty will always fade when certainty arrives. But attraction built on emotional stability? That doesn't disappear. It deepens. And now you're starting to see the difference.